Well, joining me now is psychotherapist Ro Randall, who's based in Cambridge. And Ro is an environmentalist, but also a psychotherapist, and looks at the various ways that environmental campaigners might think more about how to persuade people of the benefits of cutting carbon emissions. Ro, thanks very much for joining us. A YouGov survey last summer said that 43% of people in the UK did believe that the world was getting warmer, and that was a result of human activity. But 43% seems quite low given the decades of environmental campaigning that has gone on. How do you explain this this issue that people seem to have with the concept that humans are responsible for an increase in the Earth's temperature?
If you think about the implications of climate change, they're actually very frightening. They actually demand that people make very significant changes in the way that they've been accustomed to living in the West. And psychologically, I think that all of us are capable of blocking out news that we don't really welcome, something which feels like bad news. And I think you can understand this if you think about your reactions to any piece of bad news. If you think about it all the time, it becomes overwhelming. So that, for example, you don't want to think every day about the fact that children are dying in Syria. You don't want to think about the fact that oil companies are destroying the Niger Delta, for example. It feels overwhelming, and you feel that there's nothing you can do about it. And psychologically, I think we're very well equipped to shut out some of that bad news and to then make the move from there to saying, well, I don't want it to be true, so it can't be true, is the kind of move that people make unconsciously. I don't think this is a particularly conscious process. I think it's just that we are very well equipped to deal with bad news in particular ways. And then I think to move from there to blaming others, to blaming government, to blaming the messenger, to blaming the people like the scientists who brought us the bad news, we can shift responsibility for it in all sorts of quite subtle psychological ways. And I think this is part of what lies behind the falling numbers of people who acknowledge that climate change is real and it's actually us that's causing it.
So in that case, do climate campaigners and those who are determined to take on the mission to make people more aware and make people change the way they live and the way governments operate, do they have to change their game? Do these numbers mean they have to change their game?
I think that climate campaigners have for very many years hoped that you give people information and they'll go, oh right, okay, that's it then. I'll do what that information suggests. But what we know is that people interpret information through their existing worldview. And so if your existing worldview is one which says, I get up in the morning, I put the children in the car, I drive them to school, I work very hard, I eat loads of kind of junky food from the supermarket and loads of meat, and then I fly somewhere on my holidays, and that's the lifestyle I have, and that's what's real. You will interpret all news through that. And so I think that what you see frequently is that this idea that campaigners have often had, that we just need to give people information, is actually mistaken. And that more than that, what we need to do perhaps is to give people experiences that take them in a way more gently towards an appreciation of what needs to happen.
Okay, so one of the things that this interview is about is to do with an expedition to Antarctica. It is taking a group of what are described as future leaders of oil companies, big corporations, government departments. Is that what you mean by giving people an experience, or do you think that is effectively more of the same? Is that more of the doomsday scenario as a means of trying to persuade people?
There's quite a bit of research, I think, which says that doomsday scenarios tend to make people put their head back under the duvet. I think there is work that suggests that it's people's basic connection with the natural world that means that they tend to have pro-environmental attitudes. So there is work which suggests that children who spend a lot of time out of doors, able to play freely, able to relate to the natural world, and when they grow up to be adults, will have a much stronger sense of their responsibility to the natural world, and that's more effective than telling children save the polar bear or something like that.
Let me ask you just finally about things like green champions in companies. Lots of corporations, lots of private companies, and lots of public companies as well have taken to making individuals responsible for trying to persuade their peers to alter the way they use the printer, all sorts of different small things. I was very interested to read in some of your articles about how you think that may not be very effective and in fact may be detrimental. It may put people's backs up.
I think one of the experiences of people who are green champions is often to find that they become the butt of the office joke. Oh, here comes so and so again. Better stop talking about flying girls. She's not going to like that. Is the kind of story that you hear. But I think what this is actually about is how we train the green champions and how we enable them to become really good communicators, because I think peer-to-peer communication is actually very, very important. I think if you can start to do things which change the culture within an office environment, for example, that can be very powerful. But I think it's about the kind of support that is offered to those people and the way that they're trained to communicate. They need to learn, they need to know how to listen, they need to know how to promote things in ways which draw people in and take account of people's experience of it. And that's often not offered, I think.
Well, Ro Randall, thank you very much. And you can watch more videos just like this on skynews.com, on our live blog, or on the Sky News iPad app.